Welcome to another episode of the Growth League podcast. I'm here with my guest, Tina Serrao. She is the creative director and really drives the marketing program at, everyone knows about it. And if you don't, you should know Beavertails, a wonderful brand with a great product. We share the same preference for our top Beavertail pastry, the cinnamon and sugar. I get a little bit of icing on mine. But anyways, Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Let's start here. You've been with this organization for a long time. You've seen its evolution and ups and downs, perhaps, and the different way that it has emerged as a very recognizable and beloved brand in this country. So, and there's a couple locations in the States and elsewhere as well. So,
Yes.
tell me what does this journey look like from you from the beginning to today in sort of a summarized version? It might be hard to do, but
Really hard. I think I've been with this company almost more years than I've been alive. That's kind of the way it feels, in a positive way. It's been an amazing journey. I feel like I grew up here. And although I've had other jobs and I thought I was going to have a different career path, this was a great career path that worked out very well for me. But we've grown. It's almost like we've come full circle. We've grown from this tiny little grassroots place in Ottawa to being destinations across Canada, into the US, and a couple of internationals. And yet still I find myself always circling back to our grassroots. So I think that's a huge driver for us, and it really does say a lot about who we are as a brand.
tell me about that grassroots. In our prior conversation, you said you've gone through this cycle of exploring mass media, top of funnel, awareness reach,
Yeah.
and then you kind of had a reckoning, if you will, that brought you back to the. So why is that
Yeah.
approach important to the brand?
It's so important because I think that we all have this, or not all of us, but I think we had this ideal of we had to act like a big boy. We had to pull up our pants and we had to do things differently. And maybe the world of marketing and the way we've grown and the customer journey and life has said that looking small and endearing while you grow is not the outside perception. It means that the outside perception says you're not growing. Why are you not doing
Right.
mega advertising? Why are you not doing all these things? And so we felt like we needed to try it and do it really well. And I think we did, but we learned so much from ourselves. And I think I always have this expression, I say we went around the block. And so we went around the block to come back to where we were to say, oh yeah, what we're doing is right. Like, it's okay. It worked out.
Right. And what do you rely on, whether it's a gut feel or KPI support to confirm and validate that this is the right approach for the brand?
I think a lot of it is gut, which is kind of scary when you talk to somebody else and they're like, you're just going to go with gut. Like, this is like, that's like, where are the numbers? Where is the data and the metrics on it? So I think a good slice of it is gut, but we did actually validate it in so many ways. We did, for those who don't know or who are listening, we did all kinds of things we never did before. We did billboard advertising, weather, network media, crazy, amazing, all amazing stuff, like video with casting and so cool and so well executed. And then we, got all of these eyeballs on. So awareness was really great. But what we discovered was what we sort of knew before, which is we can't drive you to purchase. So I'll explain that a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you're craving a beaver tail and you live in Calgary, let's say we just opened a store in Calgary, but let's say the store wasn't there, and you're like craving a beaver tail, I'm not driving to Banff to go get a beaver tail. But let's flip that around. So I'm in Banff and I'm not leaving without a beaver tail.
Right.
So that's the nuance, right? So what we discovered was that all the stuff that is all long-term, long play awareness, but not drive to purchase in the same way.
Right. Right.
So
So there's a sense of,
correct.
and so there's a sense of, I guess, trust that you need to have that will at some point along you mentioned the customer value journey, at some point along their journey, top of mindedness will be there, but it will be their own decision to drive to purchase as compared to you being transactional in your messaging.
Exactly. And we're so not a transactional brand. You do not need to have a beaver tail.
That's right.
You want a beaver tail,
Yeah.
you crave a beaver tail, but you do not need one. And that is the biggest thing. And so we just want to foster this really amazing community that loves the brand, that we love them, and that we're constantly sort of engaging and putting stuff out there. But we're not going to sell to you in the same way.
Right.
We don't have a value meal. We don't need you to, come out and do a combo for us. We just want you to enjoy the product.
I love it. I love it. So I was mentioning this to you before. I think it's quite unique, and maybe I have a limited view of the world, but this is unique in that you're the creative director, but you're also leading the marketing function in terms of its function and the team of people that support it. So tell me about why that is the case. Like, why is it important that the creative director is at the heart and center, at the tippy top of the sword of this marketing function?
It's funny because when you said it to me earlier, I was like, didn't really resonate. Like I didn't understand, but I guess it is different. It's funny that I think that I don't know if I can explain this properly in words, but I think when a company or something doesn't have a lot of resources when they start, they bootstrap a lot of stuff that is inexpensive, that could bring big wins, but are subtle, that just move the needle in a different way. So when we took the reins of the company, there was no money.
Right.
And so what can you do that's on the cheap? And the company didn't have unified logos, unified branding. My husband and I, more than my brother-in-law, who's our CFO, are very design oriented, really love branding, love the storytelling behind branding. And so it's kind of it was an easy win for us to go far and to make a difference. And many, many years ago, we won a design award for another company that we had at the time, which said they created a category for us, which best integration of package design into a concept.
Cool.
And it was really cool and very complimentary, and it was so amazing. And I think that kind of sums up who we are. It was the small things, like they all tease me here about, like, I notice every detail. I'll notice that the button on your Oxford shirt is not done, or if you get a haircut.
Now I'm nervous.
No, you're good. You're good. But they tease me because then I see things like that nobody else sees. So I think it's kind of like, it's a lot of that. It's the 1,000 details. And so the one consistent thing that we have been, and it sounds egotistical, and I hate when I sound egotistical, but it sounds like we have done well as a company, is the 1,000 details that make the experience.
Right.
And so I think that what's happened is that it's almost like we are so much more a brand than we are anything else, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
We're always trying to tell our story. We're always trying to communicate, and whether it's the way a coffee cup looks, or we put a little flag or something on your product, like it's all the things that like make you feel great about us, but you don't even realize. So I think that's how I ended up where I am. Does that make any sense?
I love it. Yeah, and I love it. And creative direction is not just tied to design and assets. Creative is about it could be about process. It could be about the way team dynamics form. I just think it's unique. I think it's really interesting because as a creative director, I think a lot of times creative directors get pigeoned into a hole that is like, you're just developing assets and the visual.
Yes.
But it applies to all of those things I mentioned, and makes a lot of sense for leading a marketing function in a team. So,
well, and also because we're so weird and quirky, right? Like in terms of we sort of don't fit the mold in so many things, right? So whenever somebody says, well, what do you do? And I say, well, it's architecture, it's tone, it's how we answer the phone, it's the uniforms we wear, it's how we deal with each other. Yeah, right? Like all of those things. And so it's so overarching, right? That it's kind of like, it really is everything that we do.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so Tina, tell me this, and be as vulnerable as you'd like to, but what's the biggest marketing challenge or constraint that you and your team would agree is creating some form of blockage or barrier to growth aspiration?
The biggest, I think, is scale. So we have these conversations all the time. So we are in every, I think every high leisure, high volume Canadian tourist destination.
Yeah.
So we're in Whistler, we're in PEI, we're at every ski hill, and there's an inventory of that in Canada.
Right.
And so part of putting on our big boy pants is where do we tackle next? And so I think that, you know, we're so lucky, I knock on wood, where we have this amazing brand that has so much Canadian love and international love. And so it's picking where we go next and how we execute it. And so I think that's where we're poised. That's where we're aiming. And that is our biggest challenge because it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you don't want to take away from the experience of coming into store, right? Like, would this product work in a retail store, you know, putting it on shelves in retail stores, or how does that fit in?
Oh, so, okay. So if we go out of Canada, it would be with stores. That's the first thing.
Okay.
I don't think we would volley into doing like a consumer packaged good outside of Canada just yet. We do that in Canada. We really try and play with like kind of the fun, gifty things. I don't know if we're necessarily always going to be an everyday thing. Like there are some products that we do have in the grocery stores, which is kind of like we celebrate the fun of Beavertails, like our hazelnut spreads in the stores. It has been for several years. We just launched an ice cream cake, which is really fun. And we did an amazing collaboration with Polar Ice and did a cinnamon sugar vodka. So there's stuff like that that's always fun and interesting. But yeah, we would go with shops.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. When scale is an issue as it relates to these destination-based locations, what does the strategy then entail from your guys' perspective? Is it about squeezing more juice out of the retail space we have available? Is it driving more traffic there, or how can you grow with that very real constraint that there's only so many popular tourist destinations?
Right. So we're always doing new products. So we don't stand still. Employees who work with us will often tell you, what do you love most about the company? Some things are always changing. What do you hate most about the company? Things are always changing. So we don't stand still. We don't want to be eaten for lunch. So we're always doing, well, we do want to be eaten for lunch.
You picked that up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, slow to my own comments. What was I going to say? So I think that, so a couple of things. One is we have an expanded savory product. We've always done, or for many, many years, done a poutine, which fits our DNA in terms of it can be your snack, my meal, my snack, your meal. Kind of like street food on the go, because we are on the go food often. And it's Canadian, so it always kind of fit our bill. And so we have an expanded poutine product. In the past few years, we came out with the Beaver Dog, which is this amazing hot dog that's all beef sausage, and it's wrapped in a beaver tail. And we've just expanded on that. So there's always something. So taking that sort of to the next level, so that helps create more in-store sales in Canada. And then, so we'll always be working that. And we also recently launched, we're doing a test, and I think it'll be testing for a little bit, but a Beaver Mini, which is kind of this like hybrid of a smaller beaver tail meets a donut. So I almost want to say it's like I can't say it's a cronut, but because it's not, but it's like a hybrid. And they're amazing. So we're doing a couple of stores where we're testing those and introducing them slowly to the market. So we're always growing in that way. And so in Canada, we'll just keep doing all those amazing fun things. And so we're just trying to decide where we go next and where we go. The US, do we do ski hills? What do we do from there?
Cool.
So
yeah, I love it. Something's, if you're not evolving, you're kind of dying, I guess. So
yeah, right. Don't stand still.
So you have a lean internal marketing team, and that works for you. You've done it by design, I think that you told me before.
Yes.
So For those listening that also have a lean internal team, maybe four or fewer people, how do you approach that so you can get the most impact, but you can avoid and kind of side skirt some of the very real challenges associated with capacity constraint?
Yeah, I think it helps that we have a team that really wants to be here. They're amazing. They work really hard. They get the brand. They're here to work hard but have fun, and so they're kind of game. You
Yeah.
know, we and everybody gets to sort of pitch in ideas. We had a tail or swift tail that we just did for Taylor Swift's Canadian tour, and got it like we did it. We put it out. The idea came out from somebody on the team and not a marketing person. And then marketing ran with it. Within 24 hours, we had a Taylor Swift tail. And it was really fun. Our name really played into it, which was great. But lean means that everybody's pitching in, but with very specific roles. So that they're not overwhelmed, hopefully, that they feel like their input matters, and that everybody can actually budge the needle together. So
Yeah.
our team is small. We have a marketing manager, a social media coordinator who does all of our community management and all of our socials. We have a marketing coordinator and an in-house graphic designer.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. If they're not bought into the brand, then it makes it a little tougher, right?
Yeah.
Can you, shifting gears a little bit, can you share an example, if one comes to mind, share an example of a time where you and your team tried something really bold and in line with this evolution, this evolve mindset you have, but it just didn't work and it fell flat. And were there any lessons from that?
Oh
Something
my
big
God.
and bold you tried that just,
We've done so many things. I think that, I don't know if this is the kind of example you're looking for, but I think billboards were bold for us.
yeah,
And we did do billboards last year or this year that we're in, and we really wanted to do them. We really thought it would be exciting and they were beautiful. But I think they fell flat for us because you might be driving on the highway to anywhere. So, but it's not going to, even if the billboard is well placed, it
yeah,
doesn't mean you're necessarily going to detour. And so I think that was like, it was disappointing that we couldn't do it. And again, eyeballs are great, but drive to sale is when you're spending that kind of money. And a company our size makes a difference.
yeah,
And so you want to put all your dollars to where they matter. And we're a franchise system,
yeah,
right? So we've got owners on the ground who we're supporting, and so if they feel like that didn't support them, then that's not good for them, right? So
got it.
we want to make sure we keep them happy and financially healthy.
Yeah. You talked before about this idea of because people aren't going to necessarily go out of their way, so we're not driving transactional we're not putting into market super transactional messaging. We're trying to create a belief and a connection to the brand so that next time, right?
Yes.
So how do you determine the appropriate balance between these sort of short-term wins and long-term brand building plays? How do you think?
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I think that what we're always trying to do is foster relationship,
Right.
right? So if we're constantly fostering relationship and you feel good about us and you feel good about um, coming in with your friends, family, whoever you're bringing into the store or coming in with, I think then that's where we're always incrementally, like one customer at a time. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but like one customer at a time, building that relationship.
Yeah.
And we have the grace of being in very happy places
Yeah.
and places that you're having a good time. So we always say that we make happy happier.
That's a
Um, so when you're wherever it is you're having your leisure moment, is that most likely you're out with your family, you're having a good time, you're not in a bad mood. You have money in your pocket to spend. You're not so necessarily counting your calories, and so it kind of is the perfect moment.
yeah.
And so I think that's how we do it.
And so why would things like buy one, get one, or coupon mailers or driving transactional promos, what like it makes sense to me why that is incongruent with the brand, but how do you or why did you guys make the decision, put your foot in the ground and say, we're not going to do that?
Stubborn, terrible stubbornness. I am stubborn. But actually, I think it's because we're not in places where the value matters.
Right.
We deliver, I mean, value always matters, don't get me wrong, but we deliver, or we are trying to always deliver the best experience for your dollar.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're never going to try and cheat you. We're always going to, we have a promise in house that we have to be the most authentic all the time.
Yes.
So, we just released a year ago a pistachio beaver tail. It's made with real pistachios. It's from Italy. It's fantastic. I would feed it to, anybody, and it's like great price. And so for what it is. And so ultimately, now I've lost the point of your question and thought I was going to say something.
Well,
Oh, the
no,
value.
yeah.
So yeah. So sorry about that. I went off on a tangent. So I think that ultimately at the end of the day, we're not in places where the value does matter. We are always delivering on value. And because again, when you have to feed your family, the value matters. When you're
Right.
having a dessert, the value doesn't matter the same way.
Yeah.
And we're not like Dairy Queen. Like every spring, I go to my grocery store. On the back of all the receipts are all these Dairy Queen coupons that come out.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a Dairy Queen like 3 blocks from my house,
Yeah.
right? And it's in a neighborhood. So if I'm going to go every day or several times a month, then the value matters.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
going to come to us for a special moment.
Yeah.
So the value isn't the same. It doesn't do anything. You're not going to carry a coupon for a year in your pocket till the
Yeah.
next time you come Banff.
Yeah. So does that strategy hold up in your mind when you're in places like Calgary, where you're not necessarily there on vacation or on a special trip? That's when you would then pivot to this idea of value, and it's a special experience, even though it's nested within a place where you would typically just do your like feeding your family for dinner type thing, or
Right. I think what happens is even in Calgary, like a place like 17th Avenue or White Avenue in
yeah,
Edmonton, is that you're still playing tourist.
that's true.
It's amazing how we play tourists in our own town, right?
Yeah,
So in Montreal, where I am, our store is in Old Montreal, in the
right.
old part of the city, which is very typical tourists, but it
Yeah,
has a huge population base of people who do live there. But yet still, the state of mind is when I go there, whether I'm going for dinner or for a walk or whatever, I'm still playing tourist.
got it. I love it. So would
Yeah.
does that drive, I would assume that drives real estate decisions in the future. You're not going to be in some suburb
Yeah,
beside.
we've tried that. We've tried that. It doesn't work for us. And it's really interesting. We tell a famous story from a friend of ours who we had put a store in her neighborhood and a store up in Mont Tremblant, where she also has a cottage. And she said, "Oh, I'll for sure have a beaver tail on the weekend, but I won't have one on a Monday night at my house." And
Yeah,
she's like, "That's my treat. That's my reward. That's my fun time." So
makes
we
sense.
always say psychographics is what drives us, right?
Totally.
Like it doesn't matter how old you are, what your income is, what your education is, it's your state of mind.
Yeah, I love it. It's very cool. So focusing now on you for a little bit, Tina, for a few minutes here. I want to get an understanding from you. Like let's say you're done work for the day, you're driving home. Um, Not looking at a spreadsheet or a set of KPI reporting, how do you know in your gut whether or not you did a good job today as the leader of this marketing function? Anything
That's a
you
good question.
rely on?
Yeah, I think it's really a gut feeling. I think when you go home and you've had great meetings and people are laughing and smiling, that's my first feel good moment of the day. When you've had a good conversation with someone and they say they'd come to you with ideas, that means that we're doing our job well because you wouldn't come with ideas if you weren't happy and
Right.
engaged. Um, we get something every day, which is like our Google rating scores. And I know that's like a KPI for most people. But so we see every review that comes out. Every person in our office gets all the reviews every morning. And so when I get a review that says that a particular staff in a store somewhere in the world did a nice job and gets called out, I love that. That makes me feel like I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds really cheesy, but when my kids ask me how my day was at work, I feel like that means I'm also doing a good job because they actually want to know. They're not just kind of saying like sliding it in there. They're like, how was your day? Was it good? And they actually listen if I tell them something. They're like, and they'll have a conversation. I think that's like a very
Totally.
good feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
Not cheesy at all. I think that that's the most important. Very cool. And as a marketing leader, you're inundated with so many different opinions and perspectives on what is best practice, what isn't, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't, and
Yeah.
if there are voices in your head at some point as a marketing
A lot of
leader,
them.
what do you do to kind of maintain that conviction of I'm doing it this
Yeah.
way, I'm playing the game this way, and we're going in this direction, and that's going to be that. How do you have that
It's
conversation?
it's a conversation we have on a regular basis because I do think outside of the box for most people. And I joke and say I can't count, but I can like match colors and do other things. And so you got to kind of just blindly follow me. And that gets me into trouble too. I don't always do it right. But um, I worked for Club Monaco a long time ago,
When you
and
were like 4, right?
right, I was 4. And they were super inspirational for me. And I remember when I first started, I had come from the Gap, and Gap being really, really big boy at the time, top of their game. And when I went to Club Monaco, I was always bringing in all these Gap examples.
Hmm.
And somebody very high up in the system said to me, listen,
We don't give
Gap
a
makes
shit about the
rules.
guy.
Well,
So
actually, it was really interesting, right? Yeah, totally. And they said Gap makes the rules and we break the rules.
very cool.
And that really stuck with me. And so I sort of feel like we're in this really amazing spot where we can break all the rules.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a beaver tail. But if we make it worth your while, then you're going to really enjoy it. And so every time someone says, well, that's not what XYZ food chain would do, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Right.
Right. And when we talk about what we do as a brand, I feel like I pull that Club Monaco card where I say, don't tell me what other food companies are doing. I don't
Right.
want to know. I don't
Right.
want to copy them. I want us to find our inspirations and all of those things completely outside of the food world. So we're always looking at what's happening outside of the
Right.
food world.
What's an
Um,
example if one comes up for you?
Oh my God, so many things. I always compare us to Canada Goose,
Yeah.
in that there's such a leader in terms of it doesn't matter how much they cost or what they do. They hold true to who they are as a brand. And so I like to sort of break the rules or have us break the rules if we can on, what does our seating look like? Do we have to be all tables and chairs? Can we
Right.
mix it up? Can we do things that are different? Do we always have to be so matchy-matchy? Can
Yeah.
we kind of push the envelope? Does our logo have to be on everything? Do our staff have to look like walking billboards? Can we
Yeah.
treat them a little bit more human and have some sort of uniform that makes them feel like they can? We don't have our mobiles have a uniform because they're outdoors more, and so they have to be more elements based, like short sleeves in the summer, hoodies
Yeah.
in the winter. But in our stores, we have a bring your own plaid policy. So everybody wears their own plaid shirt. You wear a hat and apron, but you get to have your identity and still look like us,
Yeah.
and feel like on brand. And so, McDonald's would have you wearing everything the same.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
try and
I love it.
bring our own to everything.
I love it. And that you can do that in a big growing brand where there's franchisees involved. Like that's wild stuff, right? Because you
Yeah,
typically that type of behavior you would see show up in corporate owned brands,
I
right? Where you
know.
can decide what to do top to bottom, and you need
Yeah,
uniformity, usually in a franchise setup. But you said, we break the rules, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah.
Wow. I like the brand even more having spoken to you.
Oh, thanks. You
Let
could have
me
said something
let me
opposite.
leave you with this one, and I want to know from your perspective, if you're willing to share, what would you consider to be your superpower as a marketing leader? And on the flip
Oh,
side, what's your Achilles heel as a marketing leader?
okay, so that's interesting. I think my superpower is I don't like it when someone says we can't do something. I always, I consider myself, and hopefully my husband might disagree on some days, open-minded,
Yeah,
and I want to try and I want to succeed. So it's kind of like, let's try. Like,
yeah,
what are we going to lose, right? Like, if no one's going to die or get hurt, what are we going to lose? Are we going to lose a ton of money? Hopefully not. So I want us to keep trying stuff.
it's awesome.
So I think that's the big one. And my Achilles heel is probably I take everything to heart and personally in terms of not in a negative way, but like I get up every morning to do this as best as I can. And it's funny because I really do actually love my job,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have it any other way. And so when someone thinks that like I'm not working hard for them or that
Mm,
I'm not working with them because I'm doing something that's breaking the rules, and they can't sort of see it, then I'm like, why can't they see it? I see it. Like,
right.
so I think that's where I think because my heart is in it so deep, then that's where I feel like I maybe I miss a bit, but I could do better.
Well, thanks for being honest. I think that's great. And thank you for giving us a peek into how you're playing this great game of marketing leadership. I thought this is very interesting, is that, rules are meant to be broken. Ultimately, there are best practice out there, but it's important to define and carve the path specific to your business and your brand,
Yeah,
and have this sort of yes to everything attitude. Uh, I love it. So thank you for sharing.
thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share. It's been wonderful.
My guest, Tina Serrao, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.